Hello everyone, this is Paul Doherty here, and I just wanted to create a short video to talk a little bit about SARGIS8. This is our 8th annual Search and Rescue GIS workshop and meeting that'll be hosted next week in Reston, Virginia at the USGS headquarters. It's sponsored by the NAPStick Foundation, and our partner organizations include U.S. Department of Homeland Security, NASAR, and our sponsor Esri. It's a 3-day event. What I wanted to cover with you now is the basic training. What you see here is a story map that I'll be using to conduct the basic training, and it is publicly available. You can access this, and I'll send that link out in just a moment. In the first part of the training, we'll cover the basics of GIS. What I mean by this is we'll cover base maps, base data, and incident data, regardless of what software you're using. Then we'll go through a short tutorial where you'll learn how to make a map like this. Here's using Yosemite Search and Rescue incident data to visualize clusters of activity based on incident type. So you can see here hiking incidents distributed across Yosemite versus technical rope climbing rescues. Then we'll move on to covering the basics of field operations. For many of you, you'll be familiar with using PDF or printed maps. But in this particular training, we'll cover the use of US National Grid for navigation and talk a little bit about how PDFs are made using various mapping software. We'll cover the basics of US National Grid and how to adapt to using it, especially for those of you that are currently using UTM or latitude longitude. From there, we'll move on to collecting data in the field. We'll cover the basics of using a GPS, using apps like Collector for ArcGIS, Avenza, PDF maps, and also an app like this called the Geoform, where you can simply enter in some information, put it on a map using address, coordinates, or simply dropping a point and submitting that clue. And that'll be visible to anyone in the command post or that you're collaborating with in other command posts. Then we'll talk a little bit about working inside the incident command post. Now, for a lot of you, you're using a wide variety of different mapping software, but here we'll go through some of the different map products that can be created. So for instance, a situation map, which is a large format map with accurate, current, and detailed record of the incident information is displayed in or near the situation area. Or simple things like what should be in an assignment map. These aren't standards, although many public safety agencies do set up standards for how they make maps. These are just recommendations from the Search and Rescue Working Group at NAPStick Foundation. The advanced class will be learning more about how to make these maps and specific analyses like theoretical search area using travel cost models. Another important component of working in the incident command post is having the ability to download GPS tracks. This is done typically from GPS receivers, although more and more from smartphones, and even live tracking is done now over radio and mobile devices. So we'll cover quite a few of those topics. And in the end, they'll be able to make a very simple elevation profile map, downloading GPS tracks and getting an idea of what the terrain is like in that area. Pre-planning. What we mean by pre-planning is what are the things you need to do to be successful in an incident before the incident actually occurs. One of the most important concepts in public safety GIS is the concept of having a minimum essential data set. What is the base data you need to have before an incident even occurs? Here's a list we generated in the last Search and Rescue GIS workshop. We'll explore this open data portal, which is sponsored by the Department of Homeland Security, where you can search for data at the national level, such as cell towers. This is a data set you can download or connect to through open source formats or open right inside of ArcGIS Online or desktop. We'll learn about how to build MADs and take a look at some examples. And each of these sections have links for more information, such as the Using GIS for Wildland Search and Rescue ebook. Chapter 3 covers minimum essential data sets. In the second part of pre-planning, we'll talk a little bit about some creative ways to do pre-planning or even preventative search and rescue. We'll learn how to make a very simple app called the Map Tour, which allows the end user to interact with locations of photos on an interactive map. This is created very easily from an app called Snap to Map. It's just an engaging way to work with maps with your search and rescue team, whether it's for preventative search and rescue or pre-planning or even incident briefings. Another important aspect of pre-planning is collecting incident data after an incident so that we learn from year to year where our incidents are occurring and we can share this information with stakeholders. For this, I'll be touching on the Mountain Rescue Association Mapping Portal project. Important to note is that the mission data schema we're using for the MRA is now open source and can be downloaded and used in any mapping or even data collection system. Then we'll move on to collaboration using and interoperability using different mapping software. Many of you are familiar with SAR-Topo, which is created by Matt Jacobs. So we'll do a short exercise where we create some maps, both PDF but also layers that can be used in other software to do some more advanced analysis, and vice versa. And then finally, we'll talk about a project, a research and development project, and do some testing on something called MapSAR Online, which is an open source application that can be deployed by any agency using ArcGIS Online. And the data that's created inside of MapSAR Online can be opened up directly in ArcGIS Desktop and other mapping software to have a more connected real-time environment for sharing and collaboration. While this conference is focused very much so on wildland search and rescue, we're going to be collaborating a bit with urban search and rescue teams and see some presentations in day one of the exercise. And before we do our on-site training exercise, we'll go through what are some of the steps you can take to get more help with your search and rescue mapping. We'll cover a variety of different ways to get access to mapping software and talk about opportunities for training. Finally, if you need support with your search and rescue team, the NAPStick Foundation is here and available to consult with you and point you in the right direction. And a great place to start is on this website where you can assess where your team is at and where you can go in the future. These are all free resources on the NAPStick Foundation homepage. So that wraps up the basic training at SARGIS8. It'll be a full day of training, full day and a half of training, and then we'll move on to a training exercise where we'll collaborate with the Advanced GIS class, and I think we'll learn a lot from this. I look forward to sharing what we learn with all of you next month.